So this is the video to kind of explain the midterm and final project. So what I've got here in week 1 is the early heads up for the midterm project. You're going to find the explanation of the assignment plus the rubric. This is going to be due in week 8. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be creating a PowerPoint presentation of at least 20 to 30 slides, and you're going to be tracing the development of Western music from the Middle Ages to the Baroque period. So you're going to be including historical and cultural events outside of music, major works of art or literature for each time period, 2 pieces of music for each time period, and you're also going to be including descriptions of the lives of some composers, 2 for each time period, and also 2 important style features. So just kind of going back up to this is the rubric right here. So number of slides, you got to have at least 20 to 30. Organization. I'm looking for it to be organized, creative, and instructive. Basically, what you're doing is you're pretending, maybe you will, I don't know, explain the history of Western music for the midterm from the Middle Ages to the Baroque period to someone else who hasn't taken the course. This is just kind of an overview for that section of history for Western music. So it's just like you're just teaching someone else. So try to make it engaging, interesting, maybe even fun if you want. You're going to be including historical and cultural events, at least 3 for each time period. And the thing that people miss a lot of times is the briefly describe. So you're not going to just have a list of historical events for a time period. You're going to have at least 3 and just briefly describe them. I'm not looking for something long, just tell what basically happened. Major works of art and or literature. This is outside of music. Again, briefly described. If you are referring to a work of art, make sure it's described and you have a picture of it. Don't just have a picture and no description, and don't have a description without some kind of image as well. And also, everything that does have an image, it has to have information on it as well. You can't just have a slide with just a picture on it. Oh, and I will mention this. Number of slides. Title slides do not count in the count of slides. So like if you just have the history of Western music and that's all you've got, that slide does not count. If you want to put a title slide in between each section that says Baroque period, Renaissance, whatever, it's fine to do that, but the title slides do not count. Okay, the next thing that you're going to have is musical examples. So basically you're finding videos just like you did for your discussion questions, and you're going to briefly describe the piece. If you have any musical terms that you want to use in the description of the piece, make sure you define those. Now, people usually put a video in the PowerPoint itself, which is fine, but a lot of times when I click on the video, it will not play. So make sure that you also include the link to it as well. You're going to have information about 2 composers per time period. Make sure you include their birthplace and at least 3 facts about his or her life. And then also the style of music for which they're most known. So like if you were talking about Verdi, you would probably definitely mention opera and so on. And then the thing that, the last section that a lot of people miss is 2 important style features. So for example, like for that particular time period. So for example, if you're talking about the Middle Ages, you're probably going to talk about one of the style features. One of the things characteristic of that time period would be Gregorian chant. If you're talking about the Renaissance, you might mention madrigals. So you're looking for 2 things per time period and just briefly described. Now, the way I suggest you do it is I suggest that you kind of make each of these sections here of the rubric something distinct in your PowerPoint. Just make it easy for me to find it. Sometimes people kind of like weave all the information in there, make it more of a narrative form. I'd really just like it to be kind of short and sweet and just make it easy for me to find. And the other thing that I will say that you're also going to have a works cited slide at the end of your PowerPoint, and I'll explain what I mean for that. Now, this is going to be for the midterm, and then when you get to the for the final is basically going to be the same exact thing. Let me go here to the assignments here. So let me just back up again. So the midterm is going to be due in week 8. This is where you'll turn in the midterm. Is week 8. And I say submit it here, so I feel like it's pretty clear. And then for the final is basically the same exact assignment, except you're just continuing on. So, and this is going to be in week 15. You're going to put your final project here. And again, I have the rubric there, everything that you need to know for the final project. And basically, it is like a continuation of the midterm. So on the midterm project. So for the midterm, you had from the medieval to the Baroque, and then when you do the final project, it's the same exact assignment, except it's from the classical period to the 20th century. And I say up to 1945. If you want to have it more current, like today's music, I'm okay with that. That's fine. Now let me just kind of show you just a little bit of kind of what I'm looking for. This one isn't a perfect example, but it's pretty much what I'm looking for. So we have the major historical events. You only need 3. This person did more than 3. Briefly described. And then they had major works of art. They had 3. They have a description here, but then they go on and they give more of a description with an image for each thing that they talked about. And this person kind of went above and beyond. They also did works of literature as well. I mean, it could be and or. It doesn't have to be works of art and literature. It could just be a mixture. Like 2 of your things could be a work of art, and then 1 could be a work of literature or something. And then they have their composers, and what they did is they kind of wove everything within the information in the composers. They also talked about style features of the time with the composers. And then what they did is for the musical examples, they're already described in the previous slides, and they gave their examples of those same composers. And that, I think that just kind of makes it a little bit easier. So, and then they went on to the Renaissance and the Baroque, and they kind of just did the same thing. And then the last slide is their works cited slide. So it's numbered according to the slides, and then it gives you their sources. So that is what I'm looking for the midterm and the final. Now, for the midterm, I can accept it late with some penalty points. For the final, I cannot accept it late because I have to get it graded. So when you turn in your final, it's due when the syllabus says it's due, and that's it. I cannot accept those late because I'm going to need time to grade those. So that's the midterm and the final. Oh, no, I forgot one more thing. One more little thing. I'm going to go to course calendar here. What I've done here is as you go through, like when you get to your assignments on week 4, one of the assignments will be complete the Middle Ages section of your midterm project. And you see these little sections here. I do the same thing for the final project as well. When you get to week 4, we will have pretty much covered the Middle Ages, and then you have pretty much everything you need to complete that one section of your project. And if you do that, if you kind of just go along and get a little bit at a time, do a little section of it at a time, by the time week 8 comes along, you'll be done. Same thing for the final project. If you just do it a little bit at a time, by the time week 15 comes along, you're done. And one thing I will say, your final project, the second PowerPoint presentation, is your final exam. There's not going to be like a test. The project is your final exam. Okay, so that is the midterm and final project. Any other questions about that? Feel free to email me, no problem.